Water is running out everywhere on planet Earth. People are suffering. The government is also distributing water to people using a class system. And it's not just any water. Some people receive polluted water. In the end, they still die. Therefore, the solution is literally a mission to go to the moon to bring back a specific water sample. This sample is supposed to save all humans. This water sample is what could save humans. And how will it save them? That's what, my friend, we will find out in today's video. So let's go. The series begins with some rather harsh news. We learn that the rate of rainfall has significantly decreased worldwide. Moreover, the planet's rivers have dried up. The greatest disaster, my friend, is that the planet's water has decreased by 40%. And not only that, but mortality rates, especially among children, have increased significantly due to the widespread contaminated water. This has led people to hold large protests all over the world because of the water. Water is now being distributed in a certain way through cards. Each card has a different rank, meaning that the rank of your card determines the amount of water and the level of purity of the water you will receive. The higher the rank of your card, the better the water you will get, and so on. And that's it. 5 years after all that, my friend, the government started spending, and the president has now sent for the astronomer and biologist Song because he now wants her for a mission to the moon at the Beihai space station. By the way, Song was really against this mission at first, but when she learned that the mission was at the Beihai station, she agreed immediately without thinking, and soon we'll understand why. In general, Song then went to the Space and Navigation Administration building to attend a meeting there to understand more about the mission. Before entering the meeting, she stopped feeling sad at the memorial for the 117 space crew members who died at the Beihai station 5 years ago due to radiation contamination. While she was standing there, Captain Han approached and greeted her. By the way, Captain Han will be in charge of the moon space mission. He is actually very upset too about the crew members who died. He advised Song not to underestimate the mission because it will be very dangerous. But Song didn't like that advice, and she walked away. After that, the rest of the crew arrived and Lieutenant Ryu was with them too. Strangely, Ryu is a very famous elite lieutenant in the army, yet he volunteered for this mission. Overall, everyone started to get to know each other, and then they went to the meeting. Then Mr. Kim explained to the others that the space station was closed 5 years ago after the radiation leak that occurred there. Since then, the station has been shut down. Now the crew learns that their mission is to retrieve a very important sample from there before the station is permanently. Finally, this mission is supposed to be completed within 24 hours, no more than that. They also learn that the sample is contained in a capsule to protect it from the strange temperatures. The point is, Song then asked Mr. Kim, what exactly is this sample? President Choi replied, saying that we ourselves don't know what this sample is because all the information was lost in the incident that happened 5 years ago. Song and none of the crew liked this talk, but Choi tried to reassure her and said that they really don't know anything about this sample. Afterwards, Song was appointed responsible for any decision related to the sample. As for Han, he was appointed as the leader of the entire mission. That's it. The next day, everyone went to their spaceship to get moving. At that moment, everyone was surprised when they saw a new co-pilot named Jisoo was coming with them because he took the place of the other co-pilot at the last minute. But anyway, everyone now prepared themselves, and after a while, the spaceship moved and left the planet. Not at all. After a while, the spacecraft had indeed reached the moon's orbit and everything was perfectly fine. What wasn't fine was that there was a malfunction in the spacecraft's outer structure. This of course terrified the whole crew, and what scared them more was that the landing system failed. So, the commander suggested they make an emergency landing on the moon because if they didn't land quickly, there's a big chance the spacecraft would be destroyed with them on board. The important thing, my friend, is that the forced landing was executed and now the spacecraft is descending with all its might to land on the moon. The problem is that during this descent, one of the crew members named Huang had a malfunction with his seat, so he couldn't properly fasten the belt that would protect against the impact between the surface of the moon and the spacecraft. So that's it. The spacecraft now fell with full force onto the moon's surface, and that's not the problem. The problem is that the spacecraft fell very close to the edge of a large hill. Very. So now everyone must quickly exit before the spacecraft itself falls off this edge, especially since the spacecraft has already started to fall. This caused the ship to shake a lot from the inside, and bam, its glass broke. And not just that. No, Song almost fell through the broken glass, but thank God Captain Han went down and saved her. All crew members have now left the spacecraft and landed on the surface, but Huang, who couldn't fasten his seatbelt, was severely injured, and his rib was broken due to the landing impact and he can no longer move. Not to mention that the crew is currently very far from the station, 7.5 kilometers away, which is a very long distance because moving on the moon is very difficult, my friend, due to the gravity and the suits they are wearing. Suddenly, Birenisa, without any warning, the spaceship falls off the edge and is completely destroyed. This is a big problem because without the spaceship, they won't be able to return to Earth again. But now, Commander Han has ordered them to move to the station.
They're moving to the station. And they will communicate with the Space Administration so that they send them a rescue vehicle. And indeed, everyone now began moving toward the station. I don't need to tell you how difficult this process was, especially for Huang, who couldn't move because of his broken rib. But some crew members helped him, and after a while, they were close to reaching the station. Unfortunately, Huang couldn't endure any longer and sat on the ground because he couldn't breathe and started to bleed from his mouth and literally died amidst the sadness of all the members, the crew. At that moment, the leader told them, "We'll leave this here and take it on the way back because, by the way, we need to move quickly since the oxygen is running low." Consequently, everyone is now heading out and rushing to the station. After a while, the oxygen started running out for all the crew members, causing them to feel faint and collapse on the ground until they finally reached the station gate and entered quickly, one after the other. There they they charged their Beetle with oxygen. Oh, by the way, the crew's technical engineer activated the pressure relief system to adjust gravity so the rest of the crew could move easily. Oh, and that's it, my friend. Hi. Afterward, the crew starts moving again to head to the control room on the station. While they're walking, they find the body of a dead American astronaut. They were shocked. The biggest shock was that the signs on this astronaut indicated he died by drowning, and that's impossible because there's no water on the moon. But the crew's doctor now confirms that he indeed died by drowning. However, my friend, they continue on their way to complete the mission quickly and return to Earth. At that time, he shocks them all by saying that the level of radiation pollution here is normal, so it's impossible for it to have killed anyone. Of course, upon hearing that, she told them that the government lied to us. Then she told Commander Han that something strange happened and is happening on this station. We need to conduct an autopsy on the body we saw to understand everything. Unfortunately, the commander rejected that and told her that our mission is simply to retrieve the sample, and that's the most important thing above all else. And then he continued walking with the others. After a while, they reached the control room and activated the station's power. This made all the devices start working again. But unfortunately, the communication device with Earth was still malfunctioning. This will also delay the rescue vehicle, and it won't come now. The commander asked them to focus on the main mission. From here, he reiterated again, surprised that there was still no radioactive contamination present. Without thinking, she took off her helmet to prove to the others that it was true. Indeed, everyone became convinced when they saw she didn't die or suffocate or anything. Consequently, they began taking off their helmets as well. The air in the station is also being purified completely. After a while, he extended his He explains the station's map to the others and informs them that the areas marked in red on the map are restricted zones that require a level 1 permit for anyone to enter. He also emphasized that the samples are present and divided among 3 storage facilities in the station. Here, so the leader now divides the team into 3 groups, with each group going to a warehouse to take the sample. One team is led by Han, another by Lieutenant Rayo, and of course, the last one is led by Yong. Currently, we are with Captain Han's team, who, by the way, have already reached the door of the 3rd warehouse. At that moment, they are very surprised because they find their door closed and without any energy like the rest. The station. Immediately, Commander Han acts and starts to forcefully open the door without hesitation. A dead person's hand emerges from the door crack. Just a problem. When Han fully opens the door, he finds many bodies of crew members who supposedly died 5 years ago. Quickly, Wang informed the rest of the team. Moreover, she recorded a video of the corpses so everyone could see this terrifying scene. The shock here is that they also seem to have died from drowning. This led my friend to request an autopsy on these bodies to understand what happened. However, he also refused and insisted on focusing on the main mission. But why, my friend, are you so determined to perform autopsies on these bodies? Here we find out now that her older sister was the chief of the researchers who died in space here. So she wanted to find her sister's body and also know the cause of her death, and everyone else is here. The important thing currently, when Commander Han entered the warehouse, he didn't find a single sample literally present. And the same thing happened in the other warehouse where Rio's team is. At that moment, he noticed a dead astronaut holding a sample in his hand. He was very happy and tried to take the sample, hoping it was full. But while doing so, he leaned on the abdomen of the corpse. This caused very tiny particles to come out from the corpse's mouth and go into his eye without him noticing. Not to mention that all he did was in vain because the sample in the hand of the corpse turned out to be empty at that moment. By the way, in Young's team, we find Jisoo very surprised by what he sees on the radar because he sees a sign of a living being other than them present in the station, so he might go now to see what this sign is when he finds out. After that, Jisoo tells Sung that something strange is happening here, so it's better for you to go and take samples from the bodies we saw for real to understand what's going on. And I'll cover for you so Commander Han doesn't find out. She's convinced by his words and runs quickly to the bodies. As she leaves, Jisoo laughs strangely, enters the storage room alone, closes the door behind him, and breaks its wire. as after finding the storeroom completely empty without any samples, and while he's searching his flashlight falls under the table and turns off. He tries to get it and suddenly feels that someone passed in front of him, which scares him a lot. At that moment, she had reached the morgue, but she found the door closed. He also called her on the radio and found that Jisoo was not responding, so she knew she was far from him at the moment, so he asked her to get it back to him quickly. So, prepare then, my friend. At that time, he managed to find an intact sample, and he was very surprised when he discovered that this sample was water. Normal, so he took it to leave the warehouse. And as soon as he opened the door to leave, he couldn't because something pulled him. By the way, she had arrived too and was terrified when she saw him being dragged in front of her. So she quickly entered the warehouse to find out what was going on. And then the shock was to find Jisoo hanging on the wall, breathing his last breaths. And he dies. She is obviously terrified, but she notices the sample in his hand, so she approaches slowly to take it. But he also arrived by then and was shocked when he saw Jisoo's body. As a result, Han and the rest of the crew, who are all now, were informed. Immediately, Dr. Huang explained to Captain Han that Jisoo died due to a fracture in her nose and neck. Commander Han is now feeling an unnatural concern from the doctor's words. So he went to talk with Watsong, and she was also shocked. He asked her, why was Jisoo alone in the storage and why weren't you with him? But of course, he was very upset when he spoke to her and took the camera from her suit to find out exactly what happened. As soon as he played it, he and Young saw everything that happened. As a result, he began to feel scared and noticed that there are hidden passages connected to each other. So, he thinks that the person who appeared on the radar might be using these hidden passages. On the other hand, the rest of the team had already returned to the command room about to eat. He noticed that he was sitting far away, so he went to talk to him, and then waterfalls of water started coming out of Suyun's mouth. They were very scared. Of course, everyone called Commander Han and informed him of what was happening with Sochin. He also called Dr. Huang, who rushed over and asked everyone to step away and wear protective clothing because she feared that he might have contracted a certain disease and that the infection could spread to them all. So, everyone put on their suits until Huang arrived and began examining him. Do you notice, my friend, that Sushin is literally suffocating and unable to breathe, so a hole is made in his neck so that he can breathe. But a lot of water also comes out from that hole because she tried to take a blood sample from him, but she found that the syringe was also filling up with water. And unfortunately, my friend, Sushin keeps expelling water from every part of his body, feeling like he's truly drowning in a deep sea. And in the end, it's dying. And outside the room, he is going crazy from what's happening. And it's not just Jong. Literally everyone was shocked and terrified after that. Han goes to talk to Jong and mocks him to have Huang perform an autopsy to find out how he died. Because he drowned in the same way all the bodies here died, Jong and Hetao are overwhelmed with sadness, but he agrees. Consequently, Sochin's body is transferred to the medical section in the station, and now Huang begins the autopsy, and she's with her. By the way, Song is the one who is now accessing the station system and taking the opportunity to look at her sister's file to understand anything that was happening here. And indeed, she managed to find the file, but she couldn't access it because she needed a level 1 authorization. So she says now, and by the way, that's one of the crew. Come with me. Let's go examine the other bodies. She then starts collecting many samples from them to examine. After a while, she returns, having completed an autopsy on a body, and now she knows from the autopsy that there was mucus foam blocking the airway, and water had seeped into his body to the point that his entire body was literally filled with water. He couldn't really understand how all this water generally got into his body. But anyway, my friend, on the other hand, Commander Han took Jong and Tu, and by the way, this is also one of the crew, and he went back with them to the hallways, and now they're all down there. Then they search for the person who is with them at the station. By the way, this person's signal started to appear again on the radar, indicating that this person passed through another hallway above them. From there, Hano and the others chased the signal on the radar until they reached the door, but it was locked because it required level 1 clearance. So he went back to the control room and told them that the communication device from Earth was completely malfunctioned and someone needed to go outside the station to fix it. Of course, this terrified everyone, but he told them he would do it himself because he needed to urgently communicate with the president. And that's it. Then he returned to the medical section to find out the result of the autopsy, but my friend, he was told that there is still no explanation. He sighed deeply and left, then went to prepare himself to go outside the station and activate the communication device. He ties himself with a rope and starts descending slowly. Everything was going perfectly fine until suddenly, as he was descending, he felt a strong jolt. The jolt was because the elevator started working by itself. Currently, the elevator is rocketing upwards, literally towards Han. If it hits him, it would kill him. But thankfully, he manages with difficulty to move away from the elevator, ties himself again, and continues descending again. As he's about to go down, he finds the elevator falling on him from above. Again quickly, Han asks Young to throw the rope he's holding, and he takes that rope and ties it far away from the elevator. This move actually allows Han to avoid the elevator, but he takes heavy hits and very strong impacts as he falls. Due to the severity of these impacts, He faints. Suddenly, he remembered a time when he took his daughter to the hospital. Back then, the doctor told him that his daughter needed a higher water classification so she could drink and be treated with pure water because her condition is deteriorating, and at this rate, her legs could literally be amputated. He gets very upset and then goes to sit with his daughter for a while, almost dying from sadness for her. At that time, by the way, his daughter took his cigarette pack, stuck a sticker on it, and told him, "I will always save you with this sticker." Meaning, in other words, I'll always be with you. And that's it. After a bit of all this talk, he regains consciousness before his oxygen runs out and quickly goes down to the communication device, disconnects it, and now changes his power board. By the way, the device finally works after a struggle from Han, and now his oxygen is almost out to the point he can't make it back to the station and faints. In general, after a while, he wakes up and finds himself at the station because Jong saved him. So he gets up and goes to Ryu to check if the communication device is working or not. Then Ryu shocks him by saying that after all that happened, the communication device still didn't work. Until suddenly, the computer, my friend, picks up a signal from another communication device. And not just that, the computer informs them that the device is located in the third storage area. Everyone is shocked because that third storage holds Jisoo's body. So they all head there. At that moment, Commander Han searches Jisoo thoroughly and finds a small communication device with messages sent by Jisoo to another organization, informing them of all movements. The crew now knows that Jisoo was somehow betraying them. So Han doesn't really care much about all this talk. He gives Ryu the device and asks him to find a way to contact Choi. After a while, Ryo succeeds and manages to contact him and tells her everything that happened, that 3 of the crew died and Jisoo was a spy. So Choi gets very upset and asks him if there's a possibility that there are other traitors besides Jisoo with him in the crew. He replied and told her it's possible. He also informed her that there is an intruder with them in the station, but they don't know who it is. Without any hesitation, she asked him to capture this intruder by any means and to take the sample that was taken from Jisoo. She told him that he knows best the importance of these samples, so he must act and bring it. I told her, for me to do that, you need to give me first level authorization so I can apprehend him and go anywhere I want. She agreed and gave the authorization. Not just that, we will inform her that there is no leakage. By the way, radioactive. He also told her, you knew everything and hid this information from us, so you know that if you hide any more information, you could put the entire crew in danger. At that time, the mission to retrieve the samples will be cancelled and I will return immediately to the homeland once the call ends. And at the same time, by the way, she was still in the medical section trying to find an explanation for the death, and suddenly it hits her. She decides to carry it out. She cuts herself and puts her blood on a drop of water that was on Soshin's body. The shocking thing here is that when she did that, the water started multiplying more and increased significantly. This made them understand that when this water entered Satan's body, it continued to interact with his blood and multiply until his whole body was filled with water, and the blood completely disappeared, leading to his death. She quickly went after that to find out everything she had learned. By the way, at that time, he went out to the others and informed them that they must capture this intruder alive in addition to retrieving the samples they want. Of course, they didn't like hearing that because there are many more important problems than this, but there's no other solution. The important thing is that when Song went to him, she told him, the sample we're coming for now is water. We'll find out now, by the way, that Han actually knew from the beginning that the sample was water because Choi informed him of all this, and that Song's sister, the researcher, managed to find this water on the moon's surface and named it lunar water. But closer air. Now what if everyone knows that Balhai Station was a lab where lunar water was being studied? If this research succeeds, all of humanity will be saved and the water crisis on Earth will be solved. That's why the information about these samples was fish secret. Now she shocked him and told him that the real reason for hiding this information isn't because this water might save the planet. Instead, this water killed everyone who was at the Balhai Station just as it killed, so it won't save anyone. At this moment, Hwan Yi continued and said that this lunar water is exactly like a virus and continues to multiply in the human body until it kills, and the entire body becomes water from water. They were shocked by those words. And Sanjin, my friend, started crying because her sister was the one conducting that research, and she was the one responsible for the death of the 117 people who were here 5 years. In short, my friend, these researches were conducted to find a way to control this moon water. If they could do that, then the water crisis on planet Earth would have ended. And as I told you, the moon water has no end because it keeps reproducing. This way, we understand what happened here 5 years ago and how all the 117 they died. Now we see Han and Seong going to the storage where all the data is kept. Han opens the door using the first level clearance he got from Choi. He and Seong enter, and at this moment they find a huge amount of data. And not only that, but they also find a basement full of plants. So they quickly inform the rest of the crew, and they all go down to the basement except for To, who stays by the door, just in case anything happens. Overall, when they went down, they found the entire place literally covered with plants. They also found a whole storage full of lunar water samples. Consequently, they took some samples and put them in a bag to take back with them to Earth. During this time, Young had taken one with him to search the area here and there. At that moment, by the way, they noticed that something hidden among the trees. Suddenly, we hear a scream and see that his arm is cut off and he is screaming loudly. The one who did this is a strange girl. However, Cam managed to shoot her with the gun, so she ran away. And the girl, by the way, was really strange because she moved incredibly fast, climbed pipes, and jumped from here to there. All of that in a fraction of a second. Of course, the whole crew was terrified of her and they were shooting at her, but she managed to escape quickly, got out of the basement, and hit him hard, knocking him unconscious. The lesson here is that amidst all this, she noticed that a water sample had broken and spilled on the ground, so everyone realizes and they all quickly start to escape. And remember what happened, my friend, for later. Due to the broken sample, the water will fill the place, and unfortunately, they are leaving him in the basement now and locking him in because he had already died from the girl's attack. In general, he's being transferred to the medical department now, and there they are doing what is necessary for him. Also, they are giving him a blood transfusion from his own blood. Now, by the way, they found out that this girl was the one who killed from the start. She's doing this just to protect the stored lunar water. So when everyone knows this, they talk and inform her now that the intruder is actually a small child and tell her that the child is wearing lab clothes. It means she could literally be from the survivors. But she doesn't care about any of that at all. He is sure that this mission is important and that somehow he must capture her. And he reassures him that support is actually on the way. But now he leaves the rest area and informs them that they have to capture this girl by any means. He and the rest of the crew start looking for her. The shock here is that while he was sitting with Top to transfer blood to him, the communication device was activated and sent a message to another organization, updating them about the situation. But the organization asked him to kill all his friends with him and bring them the samples. And indeed, he is now readying his gun to finish them off. Okay, my friend, we also found out that Ryo is a traitor just like Jisoo. The important thing is that Ryo went out to Young and he was about to kill them, but he didn't manage to because the strange girl came just then and quickly raised the weapon at her and spoke to the leader over the radio. Meanwhile, Leo tried to shoot the girl, but she dodged the bullet quickly, attacked him, and knocked him to the ground. This girl started to calm down now when she saw Young trying to give her a water sample, and she began to approach to take the sample. As she was getting closer to Song, she noticed that she was injured and bleeding heavily. She was also shocked when she found out that this girl was wearing clothes with her sister's name on them. The girl took the water sample and was trying to escape, but he shot her and broke the sample. After that, the girl started screaming loudly when the water spilled over her. Also, a strange opening appeared on her face, resembling fish gills. And even stranger, all the wounds on her body healed because of the water. She immediately ran and escaped through the ventilation shafts. After everything that happened, Song said that this girl has almost adapted to the water of the moon, and it's impossible for the lunar water to kill her like it could kill us. And there's a big possibility, by the way, that her body has antibodies for the lunar water. And there's also a big possibility, this talk, that what do we say? But person, if it's all true, then she is a hope for all humanity, because then we would be able to produce antibodies for the moon water and use it. At the moment, Hank said that this girl, by the way, has amazing abilities and incredible healing speed. So the leader, my friend, when he heard all of this, made a plan to use a lunar water sample to lure this girl to a certain place and trap her there at Soviet time. By the way, Ryo was talking with the organization that wants the samples and agreed with them that he would take this sample and leave before them very soon. While he was talking, he didn't notice that two might have heard him. Two went and took the samples and started moving. As soon as he left, Two quickly jumped up like crazy and kept looking for his walkie-talkie to inform the crew about what he planned to do. Unfortunately, he didn't make it in time as someone came and killed him in cold blood. On the other side, Han's plan was working, and the girl was being lured in. And by the way, Song was standing there with the sample. Indeed, the girl came to take it, and the plan was going perfectly. Until the girl started feeling bad for her and was about to hand it back. But she pulled her and shut the door. By the way, the girl tried to escape but couldn't, and the door caught her legs. Now she's struggling and pulling at her leg like crazy. Fnat tried to help her, but she bit Yunjo and hurt her hand, and she kept crying. Pay attention to this bite, my friend, because it's important. The important thing is that when Song tried to help her, she found Luna 33 written on her neck. At that time, when Commander Han saw Luna screaming, he injected her with a sedative so she wouldn't keep suffering. Immediately, he went and opened the door and pulled her leg out from under it. After that, Luna hugged Song. Commander Han, by the way, carried her back to the command room. Meanwhile, Ryan was in the command room and activated the gate closures. When she realized, she started running like crazy before the gates closed. When the gates closed, my friend Han and Jung were trapped. Even Huang got trapped in the section, medical. As for Song, she went after Luna, entered the ventilation duct and followed her until she reached a small room. This room was supposed to be where Luna sleeps. At that moment, when Song saw Luna was scared, she gave her a piece of candy, which she took and then went to look out the window. From there, Song saw a picture of her sister. She kept cry. My friend, the only one who wasn't trapped and managed to get out is currently heading to the command room. Dr. Huang, who is now locked up, started looking for samples. At that time, she didn't find any samples but found a corpse dumped in the fridge. Naturally, she was shocked and is now talking while crying over the radio, letting everyone know that he was killed with a bullet in his chest. They are very upset and ask her to go to the control room if she can. After a while, he reached the control room, pointed a gun at him, and took the radio from him. He also knocked him to the ground and shot him in the leg with the pistol. Then he asked him where she was, and he said she went after the girl in the corridor. And knowing this, he opened the gates because he wants to take Luna. After that, he got up and attacked Rayo, and the two of them kept hitting each other. In the end, he was shot in the shoulder. He tried to escape and took a water sample with him to use as a threat, but he didn't care and shot him with a gun, locking him in a room and watched him as water flowed from his mouth because unfortunately, he was contaminated with the water he was holding and died in a sad scene. On the other side, girl, when she saw the pictures, she also found that it contained data. Without thinking, she opened the hard drive and started looking at this data. It included a video, by the way, showing her sister testing moon water on a fish that was about to die. When the moon water touched that fish, it expelled a large amount of water, enough to fill the aquarium, and the fish was saved. My friend, the experiment on the fish succeeded. Hence, it was time for experiments on humans. And then they started testing the lunar water on number 1. The experiment failed and she died. They tried afterward on a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th until they reached 37 and 34, and all of them failed. The only one the experiment literally succeeded on was 73. By the way, Sanjud was devastated, my friend, and was crying because her sister was using it on helpless, powerless children. So she decided to sacrifice the last sample of moon water and used it now to heal her wounds because she was in severe pain from the wound on her leg. And of course, when she did that, all her wounds started to heal. During these times, my friend, the doctor also went down to the basement, and there she saw something shocking. She saw the bodies of the children on whom the experiment was conducted in the past, and she couldn't bear it and collapsed on the ground and started screaming. Commander Han came to her, and they continued on their way to reach the control room. By the way, Rio was still in the control room and noticed a malfunction in the station because the basement filled with plants was completely flooded. Now he is taking advantage of this opportunity and opens the door of the basement to flood the whole station and escape. But after a while, Han had reached the control room. At that moment, Commander Han was very upset when he saw what had happened, and he quickly opened the rest of the doors and returned to Wang, who was devastated over Kim, and took her and walked. He asked her, by the way, to go to the main lab. Meanwhile, he went on to amplify the radio. At the same time, he was going to the place where Luna was. So, by the way, he was very angry and tried to kill Luna because she killed in front of him. So he wanted to take revenge, but someone stood in his way and told him that Luna wouldn't attack anyone else. Even Han spoke to him over the radio and asked him to take Luna and the main lab and stressed that he should not kill Luna because she is very important. At the moment he controlled his anger, took them all and left. After all that happened, he reached the room she was in, but of course he didn't find anyone there, and naturally he was upset and went out afterward to continue the search. And suddenly Commander Han appeared in front of him and started hitting him for a while. But overall, Commander Han cornered him and asked why he did that from the start. At the time, Frank, terrified, said to him, "You don't know what happened here, nor do you even know what the lunar water is." And somehow he took advantage of Han not paying attention and stabbed him in the arm with a knife and ran. Then he pointed the gun at Han, and suddenly, my friend, the ceiling started dripping lunar water on him. So you could say that Rio was infected and would die after a while. That's why he ran far away, because he knew that. The story now is that the water at that time had spread throughout the station, and now we recall together how Rio, when terrified, told Han he didn't know exactly what happened here. So can I find out, my friend, what happened? And before I continue with the rest of the events, we need to go back a bit in time, exactly 5 years. At that time, we see we see alarms blaring everywhere. The research team is running around terrified. There's a malfunction in the station's thermostat. By the way, among these researchers was Song's sister. The important thing is when the researchers tried to escape, they couldn't because they found out that government-sent astronauts had now locked all. The exit gates were locked, literally trapping all the researchers, some of whom were already infected, sealing 117 researchers inside the station and leaving them to die. It was Lieutenant Leo, and the government did this by order of Choi, who wanted to monopolize the lunar water for herself alone. That's why they got rid of 117 researchers before the issue of lunar water reached the world. That's all. So basically, we unfortunately understood everything that happened here, and thus we return to the present again. At that time, we see the rest in the main lab waiting for Commander Han. And by the way, Hong was very angry and shouting because the government was trying to cover up what it did to 117 researchers. Even now, she understood why she was specifically chosen for this mission, because she knew that Song wouldn't say anything about what happened, since her sister was the head of the researchers and was supervising the deadly experiments being conducted here. After that, Commander Han came, my friend, and informed them that there was, by the way, a severe water leak at the station. Here's the strange thing, my friend. In the middle of all this, she started to feel dizzy and realized she was infected, so she quickly got ready, locked herself in another room, and literally started pouring waterfalls of water from her mouth. And the rest outside, by the way, outside they were going crazy over her when they saw her struggling, and indeed she started to drown. But thank God nothing happened to her. Why is all this? Because of the bite I gave her on her hand, my friend. If you remember, when she got bitten, those antibodies were transferred to her and saved her. Another happy news, my friend, is that the rescue vehicle has now arrived in the moon's orbit. This means people might come to save them. And currently, Mr. Kim has contacted her and informed that the rescue vehicle has arrived and told him they also noticed another strange vehicle is about to land on the moon. The commander asked him to delay the landing of that spacecraft until they can escape. And we also learned that Han asked Kim to take any action against Choi doesn't want to monopolize the lunar water, of course. As for Luna, Mr. Kim assured him and told him he would arrange everything with a very large number of officials and it will be exposed significantly. From this point, my friend, it was suggested that she take Luna to the International Institute for Astrobiology and not return to Earth at all until she finds a way to solve the lunar water issue and finds a solution for all of humanity. Kim and Ata agree to this suggestion, and quickly they prepare themselves to move, by the way. Han tries to put a certain device on Luna's leg, but she is afraid. However, he reassures her, and they start putting the device on Luna. At that moment, Luna notices the sticker on Han's suit. Han notices this, by the way, so he removes the sticker and gives it to her. In general, they continued on their way to leave the station. Luna actually was able to hear the sound of the water and started running so they could follow her through the safe path. And indeed, that's what's happening. Luna is running and everyone is running after her, and the water is also chasing them. After a period of running, everyone reaches the entrance of the 7th gate, where they meet Rio, who is dying and crying because he regrets everything he did in the past. Now he screams like a madman until the water is about to enter every part of his body. He moves quickly and gets killed with a bullet, but Rio gives him a bullet in his side before they die. So now everyone enters through the 7th gate. They quickly start to prepare themselves and put on the oxygen tanks. But Yung couldn't manage, and Han tried to help him as much as he could. But in the end, Yung dies. So Han cries for him and tries to hide his grief from the others so as not to upset them. He quickly goes to activate the pressure device and they take it out, but it refuses to work. So he decides to sacrifice himself and goes out to operate it manually from outside. But when she sees that, she starts crying and begs him to go in quickly. But he doesn't make it and tells her before the water overwhelms him, "Take care of Luna and always stay with her." The water then floods, my friend, and it rushes in quickly so they can leave the station quickly before they also drown. The shock here is that as they are leaving, Luna is not with them. The bigger shock is that she took off the suit before leaving. She went crazy looking for her and kept searching while crying until she saw her standing calmly on the surface of the moon without a suit or even oxygen. And Luna at that moment went to Commander Han, who still had some life in him, to return his drink to him. When Commander Han saw her, he cried and his suit malfunctioned. But thankfully, the rescue ship arrived just in time and saved them all, including Commander Han. And now, this rescue vehicle is on its way to Earth. This time, they have water samples and also the antibodies that are in Luna. And most likely, my friend, the water problem will be solved. Will they produce a second season to explain how to solve this issue or not? Or are they satisfied that at least we know Luna exists and the lunar water present? Unfortunately, my friend, this season is ending and we don't know if there will be a second season or not. But most likely there won't be anything else because the story is complete like this and the series. But he doesn't make it and tells her before the water overwhelms him, "Take care of Luna and always stay with her." The water then floods, my friend, and it rushes in quickly so they can leave the station quickly before they also drown. The shock here is that as they are leaving, Luna is not with them. The bigger shock is that she took off the suit before leaving. She went crazy looking for her and kept searching while crying until she saw her standing calmly on the surface of the moon without a suit or even oxygen. And Luna at that moment went to Commander Han, who still had some life in him, to return his drink to him. When Commander Han saw her, he cried and his suit malfunctioned. But thankfully, the rescue ship arrived just in time and saved them all, including Commander Han. And now, this rescue vehicle is on its way to Earth. This time, they have water samples and also the antibodies that are in Luna. And most likely, my friend, the water problem will be solved. Will they produce a second season to explain how to solve this issue or not? Or are they satisfied that at least we know Luna exists and the lunar water present? Unfortunately, my friend, this season is ending and we don't know if there will be a second season or not. But most likely there won't be anything else because the story is complete like this and the series just ends. That's it. Goodbye.